Hey, I've been wanting to show and share my garden in sunny Los Angeles, California with you for a while now. Do something a little different so you can get to know me a little. And I finally decided to because of two main reasons. One, summer's in full swing and it is getting super hot outside, and filming outside is hard, but it's also kind of fun and different to do. And two, I wanted to share with you about how amazing and important California farming is, and farming in general, and just talk to you on some of the things that I've learned, as well as some of the things on my mind that have been concerning me about these immigration farming raids. But first, let me show you my garden, considering I did not have a green thumb at all. And thanks to YouTube, some years and some trial and errors, it's thriving, or at least it's growing mostly. Here, I'll show you. Then we can get into some serious stuff. So I want to start here with my compost. It's something I've always wanted. Basically, watching these worms decompose and digest all my food waste, and I get this rich black soil that I can use. And the beautiful thing is that sometimes some things will just start sprouting. I'll take them out. Like this potato plant was sprouting inside my compost. It's like a bit of a volunteer. I don't even know if there's potatoes underneath here, but it does seem to be thriving. And there is this tomato plant growing right beside it. And I know you're not supposed to grow tomatoes and potatoes together, but I just don't have the heart to pull it out yet. Here's another tomato plant, a volunteer. I don't even know what kind of tomato it is. If anything, it's probably a Costco tomato, if that's a thing. That's what we've been eating. Here's the thing. I have 3 store-bought tomato plants from this thing I went to called Tomato Mania growing in my garden, and they're doing okay, not great, but I have 12 tomato plants in total. Here's another one in the back. Totally volunteered, sprouted, came into my garden magically. And that's the beautiful, magical thing. These volunteers are like the workhorses in my garden, bringing in more bees and more food. It's a real blessing. And then there's this mint. It's like a weed. It's one of the easiest plants to take care of. You got to put in its own pot. You got to give it plenty of water, but it always seems to come back every summer, okay? And it's great for salads and tea and lemonade. And look, another tomato plant. And there in the back is my passion fruit vine, which I'll talk about later. And look, another volunteer. I have a fig bush, or is it a tree? I mean, like 3 years ago, this was growing in my garden, and I put it in a pot. And see, I wasn't sure. I thought it was a fig, but I went online, and they all basically told me, no, it's a currant bush. You know those little small berries that dry out and you kind of put in granola? But nope, 3 years later, I finally have some fruit, and I might have to do something and find a new home so it can actually thrive. And my second raised bed, this is one of my store-bought tomatoes. It's doing okay. I was hoping it would be a little taller by now. Maybe this summer it'll grow. I mean, I'm trying to give it space. Here's the second tomato plant that's doing okay. Again, not great. If you have any advice, let me know. I probably should get mulch to help stop the evaporation of the water. And here's some chives. Those are great in salads, and some eggs. And I don't use sage, but I have a lot. It's nice in a butter sauce. And look, another volunteer squash plant. Last year, I got 2 magical pumpkins growing in my garden, and I'm hoping this year I might be blessed with the same. Very lucky. All right. Look, we got some potted rosemary. And then let's swoop down here. Check this out. So many volunteer tomato plants. They were growing in my raised garden, and I had to make their own home outside. Look, more volunteers, cucumbers, squash, melon, who knows? I took the water line from my rosemary to make sure that these things are successful and thriving. I want to give them a chance in their new home. All right, and finally, the last raised bed. This one's sort of a desolate, abandoned wasteland. I should probably weed it. This is the store-bought tomato plants. It's not doing well. I don't know if I should just yank it out completely, put it out of its misery. If you have any thoughts, tell me. If I clean out the weeds, maybe it'll do better. Maybe these are sucking up resources that this plant needs to thrive. And my pepper plants, hopefully I've given them enough distance, because I know peppers and tomatoes are not companion plants, but look at my Carolina Reaper. It's stunted. It has not grown a single bit. So any advice on that? I have more cayenne peppers than I know what to do with, okay? And this is my habanero plant. It's starting to grow. Hopefully I'll get a bumper crop. I'll get rid of some of these dry leaves. But I'm excited because I have this excellent habanero passion fruit hot sauce I like to make. Now look, here's some more herbs in this pot, some thyme and oregano. And lastly, in this pot, I used to have tomatoes, but I have a lemon basil. I prefer regular basil, but lemon basil is nice and different. Try something new. And finally, another volunteer squash plant. Who knows? Maybe a pumpkin. And last but not least, everyone, my beautiful passion fruit plants or vines. I have an amazing crop this year, and I've counted about 200 fruit, which I'm really excited about, with plenty more flowers still to blossom. And it's going to be a great year for passion fruit. And hopefully the squirrels will only eat about a quarter this time so I can share with some of my neighbors. But I'm really excited about that. And that just got me thinking about all this that I want to share with you. Hold on, let me just set up my camera. Okay, I got some notes. All right. So this has me thinking about like the bigger picture, and I want to zoom out a bit, and I really wanted to talk about how impressive California is with regards to food production, because it's been in the news a lot, and I had some time to think about it. Like my home state, my new home state, because I immigrated from Canada. I'm from Toronto, but my new home state is America's garden. I mean, it's a massive garden, but a garden nonetheless. I had no idea. The state produces 41% of the country's vegetables and about 51% of its fruit and nuts. That includes practically like all the almonds, pistachios, plums, olives, walnuts, table grapes. It's a massive business. And here on the screen are some of the top producing products, which total about $40 billion. But if you include things like melons and potatoes and sweet potatoes and other berries grown in California, it totals a whopping $59 billion. It really is spectacular. And it's one of the reasons I've been thinking about this and like living in Los Angeles. So like we were driving off Stadium Way by the Dodgers, heading to some friends, and we're driving through a protest, and a peaceful protest of about 30, 40 people holding banners and getting passing cars to honk against the ICE raids. And my wife and I had to have a conversation with our kids about what was going on. So we started to tell them. It was like me using my garden as an analogy, and that's how I thought about this and wanted to make this video. Like, also, we had this really big protest in Paramount a few weeks back, and like Jon Stewart talked about it, and all the news outlets were talking about it, and podcasts, and like I literally had just watched this really thoughtful essay. I'll link to it below. But that's all like swimming in my head while I'm driving and talking to my kids, and like, I'm an immigrant. My wife is an immigrant. My kids are first generation Americans. And like, what do I tell them? And because California's farms rely on immigrant labor, and I know it's different, I could not do what they do, but I needed to talk to my kids about it, and I needed to look into it more. And that's why it's important to talk about it, like amplify what's going on and how wrong it is. And the protests we drove through in LA, it was peaceful. Like 40 people just exercising their First Amendment rights. And the immigrant labor, it's about 40% of the US farm workers are undocumented. And in California, it's even higher. Some estimate around 75%. And it's work nobody wants to do. It's grueling, it's hot, it's unforgiving. And by the way, this isn't a California thing, okay? I hate using this term of red states and blue states. I find it grossly polarizing, and it really minimizes you and me to our base identity about politics. But here we are. But just know that there are farms that produce fruits and veg in Florida, Washington, New York, Michigan, Texas, Georgia, Idaho, North Carolina. They make sweet potatoes. I mean, you get the idea. They all have agriculture and farm businesses. I didn't even mention cattle farms, but they rely on immigrant farm workers too. And it's true, California, because of its sheer size, has a bigger proportion of undocumented workers, and this impacts the food production across the country. And while I'm out here babysitting my backyard volunteer tomato plants and insane passion fruit crop, those people are out there helping to feed the entire country. Me, you, the person beside you if you're standing next to someone. Also, ICE raids don't just hit workers, they hit the entire system. I mean, it's crazy to think that they're rounding people up like rabbits in a field, but like, what about the farms that actually hire them? Anyway, look, the crops, they don't get picked, okay? The supply chain will just start to crack. Prices will go up, okay? Everyone will pay. I mean, didn't we all lose our collective minds when egg prices got out of hand? And do y'all remember 2020 and 2021 when supply chains were stretched thin and stalled because of you know what? And so we can't be okay with this. The administration is like a bull in a china shop, and it doesn't make sense. And I get that people voted to get rid of the criminals. It's like me wanting to rip out the weeds in my garden. They're a drain on the system. They're dangerous even. But these workers Like my volunteer tomato plants, and trust me, don't tell me those workers get paid. I don't want you to mix up the volunteer and them getting paid. I just don't think you realize how little they get paid, and don't ruin my analogy, okay? I appreciate my volunteer plants. I have a soft spot for these tomatoes and squash and that fig tree, but they bring bees and hummingbirds and provide me some food. And people you don't even know travel God knows how far to pick your fruit and veggies so you can eat them. And before you get into the H-2A visa, for farmers and farm workers, it's a special visa for seasonal work specifically for farm work. And there's the H-2B, which is just for like other temporary work like construction. But for farms, it's H-2A, and it's expensive for farmers, and it costs like $1,000 to $2,000 per worker. And that's not including housing or wages, or sometimes they even provide healthcare. And it's not in the farm owner's interest to do it legally, nor is it easy for them. It's like a complex system. It's like a 10-month visa, and the farm only needs people for like 2 to 4 weeks harvesting crops. And so these farmers have to bounce from farm to farm. And so you need a visa for each farm, for each worker, because they're bouncing throughout those 10 months. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Look, I'll tell you a story. I got married. I had to go through the visa green card process, and it was expensive and it was nerve-wracking to say the least. We were late for our big immigration meeting with the US Citizenship and Immigration Services, okay? It was pouring rain and we drove so slow, and we showed up late and we were like soaking wet. And I remember our interview because we had to like prove our relationship was real. And like, I'm from Canada, okay? A Caucasian guy from Canada. And my wife is also Caucasian and she's American. And our interviewer, he was like polite, stern, but polite. But we were still nervous, but we felt like it was going to be fine. I mean, that's privilege. But in the next office, and you could hear them, okay? There was like this couple, I think it was like a Chinese woman and like a Latino guy. And like, I don't know, there were like two people. And the only reason I know this is because like the interviewer, the officer, was like yelling at them about details of their wedding. I remember she was wondering like why the bride was in a different dress in one picture than the other. Like, why did she change dresses? And I'm like, oh my God, have you never been to a Chinese wedding, right? Like the bride changes dressing throughout the night. Okay, I emceed a Chinese wedding for a friend a long time ago. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, okay? It's not easy to just say, get a visa. And it's not just California, okay? And it's not just fruit and vegetables, okay? Do you remember that viral story on social media about that Missouri farmer? Skylar Holden, okay? He's a young farmer. He lost his USDA contract caught in the middle of the Trump rollbacks or the pausing of all these projects in the Inflation Reduction Act. Projects that might have been about solar or renewal or energy related. Maybe they were woke or DEI or something. There was also this like Washington Post article on this, or it was like more of a story about this Colorado farmer, JJ Ficken or Ficken. I'll post the link to it below. And he voted for Trump, and he even got H-2A visas that I spoke about earlier for a worker that he was having come into the country that he hired. And his grant was for $200K, and it got stalled or delayed or canceled. And for what? Because the president just cut it because Biden made the Inflation Act? I mean, side note, this might be a stretch, but like, I hate to say this, but like this whole thing with Iran and Israel, okay, like didn't Trump pull out of the Iran nuclear deal because it was an Obama thing? I mean, he called it a bad deal. I get it, but didn't Iran move forward with their enrichment process of the uranium, and that's now at 60%, which is now weapons grade? Oh God, I'm way above my pay grade. Anyway, back to Missouri, where like this older farmer, Will Westmoreland, he reaches out to Skylar, the other farmer, and Will has like a political background, so he offered some advice about like what's going on, and what he said really stuck with me. And like he said, you don't have to admit you were wrong. You just have to admit you were lied to. God. That's it. I mean, that's the through line. I mean, I'm trying to make this analogy of volunteer plants in my garden and to working people, whether they're undocumented farmers in Salinas Valley picking lettuce or farmers in Georgia, Florida, or Missouri. I mean, I'll just feel like we're getting steamrolled by the same machinery. It just feels so callous. It feels very chaotic at times. Food's getting wasted, it's not getting picked, prices are gonna start going up again, and don't you just feel lied to? I don't know how to end this video. I honestly just wanted to share about my garden, but I had to say something. And I learned a lot looking into this. And if you have questions about it or comments, check the references I posted below, but drop me a comment, share with me. And if I can end on anything, just stay curious, stay compassionate, just remember to be kind.